This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, most of the people did not join today. So what we can do is we will talk about the second session, right? We are supposed to talk about client-side performance testing, session 2, on how to calculate the functional elements response time of all the content that we have in a web page and a website. We'll talk and close that session tomorrow, the client-side performance testing one. But today, I would like to explain you a few things like what are all the different scenarios that you can handle as part of your performance testing assignment, like how do you identify bottlenecks, how do you fix them, or what do you do when you don't have anything in place. For example, you have if you're the only person who is working on multiple projects, right, multiple applications, you don't have anything in place. How do you baseline and benchmark, or how do you gather this non-functional requirement gathering, or how do you monitor, how do you decide the tool? Like it can be Loadrunner or it can be any APM solution like CA, APM or Dynatrace. How do you bring all of them into one place to meet your SLAs? Like if you're the only guy who has to deal with the project, you have only 60 days and you're supposed to performance test for 3 to 4 applications, and even you are not sure how many rounds of testings you have to do and what flavors of testings you have to perform. For all that reasons, what is that approach or what is that strategy you define? Okay, let's make this session a bit interactive, because just I'm trying to understand what is that you really do when you don't have anything in place, nothing else. Okay, so for example, uh, okay, so what is the first thing that you do in performance testing? Let's say that if I am your customer, or if I want you to test something on my applications, I simply say that I don't have anything in my hand. What is that you can do for me? Okay, this is a very, very important question, or this is the first step of any performance testing and engineering project. I have an application which is giving me continuous issues or continuous problems or degradations, slowness. The website is crashing. So what is that I have to do, or what are the different activities that I have to perform on my website in order to make that stable? Anyone?
Now we need to understand the production behavior by analyzing the architectural components and the situation at which the issues are happening, because uh, there could be some only certain situations or certain conditions the degradation may be happening, or errors may be happening. We need to thoroughly understand during what situations, during what kind of parameters or environment configurations that code is giving those kind of errors, including the workload at the time of getting these errors. So those things can be taken into consideration while simulating the error condition in the perf environment.
Okay, let us say that okay, whatever you said is absolutely right, but let us say that uh, you try to understand all the different issues that happen across the infrastructure and other stuff, but I don't have anything to give you. Let's say that if you want to have some analysis on the prod traffic analysis by installing some tool like Client Finder, where you incorporate and put into the production environment to see how many hits you got. So I simply say that you're not allowed to do that. What is your next step? You may ask me
Uh,
like yeah, you please allow me to do some kind of production analysis to analyze all the traffic. I can install some tool and I can analyze all the different uh, I mean different analyzing techniques you can use, and you can simply say uh, this is what I can do if you give me all these details. So I like if I
Yes.
say that you are not supposed to touch anything and I cannot give you anything, what is your approach now?
Mm. Well, like without getting any information, we have to we have to address this question. That's what you're saying. There won't be any.
Yes,
Uh,
because these
okay.
scenarios
Uh-huh.
happen in real time.
Yeah.
Because there are
Okay.
few situations where an application will be handled by n number of multiple vendors. Your application, for example, if you take there is an application, there is a project called State Farm Insurance, which
Mhm.
is a second largest insurance vendor in USA. It was almost there for 17 years with Satyam. Okay, so after the fraud that happened from the Satyam Technologies, Satyam Computer side, the client has decided to make vendorship with multiple companies just because of what Satyam did to that particular vendor. So in such cases, what happened was when we expected a business of 4,000 people for 5,000 opportunities in all the different technologies, what the customer did was he was giving it into bits and pieces to Accenture, HTC, Cognizant, TCS, and other product-based companies was also part of it. So what they did was you will not get the complete information until and unless if some teams at least are working with a single vendor, because if some Accenture guy is supposed to give all the production traffic analysis, if you're working for TCS, that may not happen on time, and you cannot the leadership will not be also in sync to happen all to make all the possibilities to get the desired output. They cannot do that. So these type of situations happen. You will not be allowed to touch anything. You will not be uh, even if you have all the teams sitting across the different vendors or in the same single company, you will not get the appropriate information. So in such cases, what is that first thing that you do? The first thing is you obviously understand the application. The second thing is you obviously try to understand what are all the different various tech stack that has been there in your application that has been used from the architecturally or component wise. You understand each and everything. So what is that first thing that you do it? You have SLAs, you don't have SLAs, you're testing the application for the very first time, you already have some results in place. So what is that first step you do? I think I already explained you, I mean, in the earlier sessions. So I'm not sharing my screen. I'll share it once I get the answers from you, at least two or three answers. I'll share my screen and I'll show you that document.
No, we should be as we based on the details shared. I mean, at the minimum level, like we get that we have performance degradation in prod or
Mhm.
issues out of memory error. Those issues will have to have it. We should get that first, and then based on the application architecture, we need to see how to derive high-level NFRs that can
Mm.
address validating these issues, at least to recreate in perf environment. That should be our first step. And
Uh,
if at all, uh,
yes, go ahead.
as we discussed yesterday, like if at all this application architecture or architecture mostly inclined towards this Angular JS or latest front-end concepts, we can even focus on that area to analyze like page rendering time or end-to-end response time for single user. And from there, we can go up to the multi-user load test. Either case, based on the high-level architecture details that we get, we can go from either from load testing and focusing on server side, or we can start our analysis for this modern web-based applications from this client-side performance analysis. That way we can get the head start, and then we can move forward and get more details into it based on what.
So, yeah, you're right. But again, see, two things. when you are working for a customer, okay, when you are working as a one-man hero in your any of your project, if a company or if any project is hiring only one performance engineer for all the end-to-end activities, okay, the customer assumption is whatever the issue that you see from the application side or from the architecture side, he will directly come back and ask only the performance engineer what happened. Okay, that was his assumption. And on a so but the real fact is a performance engineer, as far as our responsibilities are concerned, we are doing some couple of tests, we are correlating some issues, we are monitoring some metrics, we are checking we are checking many of the abnormalities only by seeing at some of the spikes for every counter that we configure on the target server, all the web app db servers. And in the report we simply write recommendations and suggestions saying that I have seen a high response time, a maximum response time of 19 to 22 seconds of a of a search transaction, and this is what we have to optimize. But when you really start a project, right, when you don't have anything in place, if you want to go and see what is happening on the production side, when your customers, when your customer don't want to touch anything from the production side, he don't wants to install any of this production traffic analysis tool on the prod environment, the first thing that you ask from the from the customer is the timing targets. Okay, there are something called, if you remember, I told you in the architecture design and hardware sizing, there is something called timing targets for the use case traversal. For any user, what is the total round trip time that it is taking to complete the entire use case traversal, the entire use case activity? That is the first point. The second point is there are always something called customer consent scenarios. What they actually do is they continuously keep track of all these transactions or the functionalities that we have in the application, and they complete every time, every release, every sprint, they come up and they come back and say that this particular transaction is taking high response time, and when this particular transaction is completely continuously accessed, we are seeing a high cpu utilization, we are seeing some kind of memory leaks. So these kind of things will happen. This is called customer consent scenarios. Okay, and the third point is you always have most frequently accessed functionalities. For example, if you take any application, if you take IRCTC application, how many users typically in a day will click on can't access my account functionality? Not even 0.5 to 1% of the total users, right? So that is nothing but you need to prioritize all the different functionalities from the user side, and you need to create some kind of a simulation, a kind of a work model, and you need to start doing this baseline and benchmarking. Okay, this is what is the first step. And to clear all of your questions, or to start with some kind of efficient approach for all your performance testing needs, I am not sure how many of you remember this particular document. This is called non-functional requirement gathering document, which is also called requirement questionnaire document for performance testing. Did I show this document to all of you? No, right?
I think in
Did I
the
explain
beginning
this?
classes we discussed about this.
Right. This is the document. I'm going to share this document. You can go through this document and you can ask me all the questions. If you, I mean, if you have any questions, you can come back to me anytime. There is no static template for this one, but it will, I have listed all the questions, like what are the different questions that you can ask, what is the complete information that you should have to start with your performance testing. Okay, and you can go through this document. I thought I did not explain you this document, but this is the document which will align all the things in order. Okay, but this document will be sent shared across different teams, to all the teams, for all the development teams, networking teams, and all the protocol teams. So to get all this information, you need to send all this documentation to all the teams, and you need to get all the appropriate inputs before you start with performance testing. Okay, and as I told you, to identify all the performance issues that are caused by environment or that are caused by database, and the tools that we used for database tuning, we will talk a little bit of Oracle database tuning. So as I told you, if you take any three-tier architecture or entire architecture, 20% of the issues performance degradations or issues you see from web servers, and 30 to 35%, 25 to 35% you see all the issues from application servers, only because of garbage collection, thread dump, and heap dump, nothing else. You cannot even think of the inefficient code. Like if the code is not written properly, or if you have too many synchronization calls that are used in the coding sections, or if the coding practices are not being followed, and it creates too many deadlocks, and it creates so many locks, it creates so many object contentions, and that will result you in too much of performance issues. So all the issues that you see from the application server are only high resource utilizations, thread dumps, deadlocks, heap dumps, and memory issues, and out of memory issues, and other different exceptions if the code is not really efficient. So these are all the percentage wise. If you calculate all these issues, you see only from 20 to 35%. And whatever the issues, the bottlenecks or the performance issues that you see every time are, majority of the issues are only from the database. Okay, Postgres, MySQL, and other databases, it is somewhat easy when you compare it with Oracle database. Oracle database is huge, and in order to identify all the issues, or in order to understand the degradations, or what exactly is causing the performance issues, to understand all of that, you need to make use of all the tools that are available for Oracle database tuning. Okay, if I list out some of the main performance problems in Oracle database, the first thing is IO peak periods. What is IO? Anyone?
Input output.
What does it do?
Actually, like when we interact with the database, we do a lot of reads and also insert and updates. So those
Okay.
operations, input output.
Mhm. What does a high read and write mean?
Uh, read is like we have two things like logical read and physical reads. So we should ensure that there are no high number of physical reads that involves disk activity. So that would have a performance impact. I mean, like I'm not a DBA, but these are the
No, no,
basic things.
I'm just no, I'm just trying to understand what is that you really understood from input and output. Basically, from the disk side, we'll talk about some basics later point of time. So the performance problems are like the IO peak periods, input output. You can go back and check for some of the basics with respect to disk, what is read and write, and what exactly happens when you have high user concurrency accessing different functionalities in the application. Okay, so if you put IO peak periods aside, so the reason for you to see very high performance numbers, high response times is the high load SQL statements, which are also called bad SQL statements. That is why the reason every performance engineer should have a basic understanding and a basic SQL writing knowledge. So at least fetching some data, or applying some two conditions to fetch some data, or to extract some data from a particular table or from a particular index, you need to write a very small query. Okay, So, but even if you have a PL SQL query or a SQL query, you can see that query is taking very longer time, but you will not be able to directly manipulate it. You will have SQL analyzer tools for that, where you can, where it can directly, if you put this query into that SQL analyzer, it will directly, there are something called SQL tuning advisor and SQL access advisor, and also SQL performance analyzer. These are all inbuilt tools that comes with Oracle database. So what you can do is, if you take this SQL query or PL SQL query, or if you take any of the stored procedure and you put there and you try to run and analyze it, it will tell you the response time of that particular query. Okay, if the response time of that particular high load SQL statement is 2.9 seconds or 3.9 seconds, it directly says that it is already taking too much of time to fetch that particular output. So when you have such incidents, you will identify the high load SQL statements. You will go back and you see what is creating this much of time, what is taking too much of time, and with the help of the DBA, you will be able to manipulate that particular structure, or you'll be able to change the sequence of that SQL or PL SQL statement. You cannot do anything with PL SQL statement. Writing a PL SQL statement is very hard even for a DBA. At in some in 40 to 50% of the scenarios, and even the ones who are evaluating you from the performance engineering side, they would like to understand uh, how you have optimized your SQL query. What is that fix that reduced the amount of time that has taken for that particular query? It is not that what did you write or what did you change in the query. SQL queries, to some extent, you can write, you can change the structure, you can use some other techniques to optimize the time or to reduce the time that it is taking, but you cannot completely write a PL SQL query right from the scratch again. You need a lot of skill to write a PL SQL query or a stored procedure. Okay, and sometimes you will see too many SQL statements that are creating very high response time. What is the reason? Any guess? Every SQL query is taking more than 2 seconds. What could be the reason?
In some of the issues in DB, like the, the indexing, either they do the columns that are not supposed to do indexing, they do that index, or the column that should be indexed, they might have just missed that applying index on that column. So that is one of the most commonly used issue in database.
Okay.
And also, like as we discussed about the coding standard, similarly the SQL query also need to be followed with the standard. Like there are ways, better ways to write even a simple select query. And if that is not followed, then we may see these kind of long time to retrieve the data from even a simple select query.
Okay. So, have you ever heard about something called bad application design? What is that bad? What does this bad application design mean?
I mean, that application design may be like from architectural point of view also, like overall the entire system is designed in a complex way rather than simpler way. Don't have any
Okay.
specific example, but that's what I'm able to think.
Bad application design is nothing but they don't follow any best practices when they try to start something on the application. Like they don't check the compatibility issues of what web app DB servers that they have to use, or what is that execution plan that that they have to follow. And the first thing, when you try to build an application, or when you try to build an if you want to build a very good product, you need to understand what a user really need. If you don't understand that point, right, you always go into a place called You will end up with something like a bad application design, which will result nothing. The complete efforts of the entire teams will go in vain if you really don't understand what the users really need, and if you don't design your application based on that, it will completely give you a scrap product. So you, even whatever the effort that you put or how many people uh, work day and night doesn't matter. So you need to have a lots of information before you build some product or before you start some project. You need to have a lots of information to understand, and you need to stand on a point where what exactly you are conveying to your users. Okay, we cannot visualize everything, but you can learn more and more with by analyzing the other market competitors, and that is how you come up with something called requirements, functional or non-functional or security concerns, everything. So from that place you need to see what is that, in what way you can design your application. Okay, if you go back and start using monolithic architecture in the year 2020, 2020, that doesn't make any sense. If your application is a Java based application, your application is already there since years, some 30-35 years in the market across the globe, internationally and domestic. So you, what you have to do is to, in order to enhance or to optimize or to give the best performance to your customers, you are migrating everything to the emerging stack of the current market trends. The reason why you are increasing your budget or why you are increasing and moving to the other emerging tech stack is only for the reason something called performance. Even if you see yesterday, if you, that is one of the classic example actually. Even yesterday if you see, there are many people from Australia who applied for a job. Okay, just because of the coronavirus shutdown, many of the citizens, Australian citizens who recently completed their graduations, who recently lost their jobs, they have waited yesterday for a site to open. Okay, there is one site which was launched by Australian government. So what they did was they are ready to give that application, so that every citizen who is not an employee or who is looking for a job can apply to all the jobs that are available and open in Australia. So in the first 10 to 15 minutes, the site went down and the site was completely crashed. So now all these employees went to the government offices and they stood in queue to get the applications manually to apply for all the jobs. The reason for explaining this particular example is, any application, even if you have too many billions of money, if you are ready to spend, if you are ready to use the world's best cloud service provider like AWS or Azure, you cannot guarantee the performance. Even if you use LoadRunner or NeoLoad or JMeter, or if you use the best infrastructure in the world, if the user base, if the concurrency on the application is increasing, there are 90% of the cases the application will crash. It is not about the thread dump analysis, it is not about the deadlocks, it is not because of the out of memory issues, it is not because of the inefficient database. Even if it is a fully automated server, it has to understand what the user is asking for. That is the basic point. You got it right? Even if we are all after all human beings, and if I ask you some 10 questions one after the other, you will be able to understand within a time gap, and you will be able to give the response back. That is how it will work. If I ask you one question, you will give the answer, then I'll ask you the second question. It takes time, but if there is something called simultaneous activity and concurrency, I continuously ask you the different questions with very less time gap, and you'll not be able to understand all the 10 questions that I ask, and you'll be able to respond to only 2 or 3 questions, right? In the same way, even if it is a fully automated efficient servers that you use in the architecture, it is very difficult for all the servers to serve all the user requests. If it is reaching the maximum handling capacity, at a certain point, it is trying to serve some lakhs of requests, and it is already serving some thousands of responses to all the requests that are coming from the users. And the remaining requests, you will getting unauthorized errors, server not found, page not found. The reason is because it is not able to handle all the requests. The queue length of that particular request is continuously increasing, which is already impacting the high CPU utilization and also impacting the high performance response times. So before you build any product, okay, the application design is very, very important. If you don't understand the application design, or if any of the teams are not following any of the practices, or if they don't have any feasibility study before they create something, before the baseline or benchmark, the reason for doing baselining and benchmarking is also to give the best performance of that particular website. If you have proper NFRs in place, if you have a efficient strategy, if you know what are all the different types of testings that you have to do, how you have to set up the environment, what are all the metrics that you need to monitor, what are all the threshold values that you need to set for each of the monitor for all the servers, so how the configurations are done, what are all the best algorithms that are used from load balancing algorithms, if it is N5 Nginx or if it is a GC algorithm, if it is a .NET based application, how the generation 0 and generation 1 the memory is given. So all these inputs parameters are very much required to expect the desired performance. You may not get the response times as I mean like 3 to 5 seconds, the industry standard response times, but however you will be able to identify what is wrong with what. If you don't have that feasibility study, when you do this hardware sizing, uh, if you don't keep in mind about the future growth in the next 3 quarters or the user behavior in the peak times, you let us take, if you take the trading application, right, if you take any of the trading application like Nifty or Sensex, if you go back and see money, go to money control now and see, you have very high user base, but you'll still not be able to. Let's say that the last week or last month, the S Bank share has fallen to 5 rupees. Many users has tried to buy that particular share, but even after SBI acquisition, right, which took some 49% of the stake, still customers are not able to buy the share price of S Bank at 30 rupees. When it has fallen to 5 rupees, many users from different locations tried to buy that particular stock. So like you always have, if you take any application, you always have the peak usage and off peak usage. When your application is not responding, it doesn't mean that it is not properly performance tested, but it means that the application has reached beyond anticipated capacity and it will not respond at any point of time. So the reason for explaining all these points is because if you, to fix the performance, or there are few performance issues or bottlenecks that you see from different directions, especially from the database. Just because even if you have a very bad application design, bad execution plan, you will not able to identify that. Being a performance engineer, you will not understand this issue is because of bad application design. You will not know that until and unless some application team, some architect has to step in to the issue and he has to tell you, boss, this is what is happening. The design was very bad, and you will start seeing these issues. No matter how many rounds of testings that you do, your licensing will go waste with respect to the number of users that you're testing. Don't do that. It is just we have some issue with the application design, we are trying to reiterate, completely change it. If you don't get that input from any of your application team expert, you keep doing the same thing again and again and again. You keep doing it for years, no doubt about that. So uh, in order to handle all these issues, you will see very high CPU utilizations from the database side. I can simply ask you for what reason I'm seeing a 90% utilization continuously from the past 1 hour. What is I am seeing the same 90% utilization, CPU utilization from the last 1 hour. What is that you do now? I'm seeing that in the database side. Can you tell me the reasons? Some 3 to 4 reasons. I'm running a 4 hour load test. For the first 2 hours, I'm seeing 80% utilization. In the very first 10 minutes, I started seeing noticing 80% of the CPU utilization, and it is not stop. It did not stop responding. It is not going above 90%, but I'm seeing somewhere 90 to 93%, 94% for the past 2 hours. Now, what do you do now? Where is the bottleneck from the database?
There could be some other bad jobs triggered intermittently.
Okay. What does this affect? This bad jobs affect the CPU spinning, continuous CPU spinning, the constant value for a CPU?
No, constant means it should be because of overload. I thought it is like just for some instance it is happening. Okay.
Yes, it can be. See, there is no specific, there is no one single solution for a particular fix. There can be multiple reasons. Even if you say some, I cannot, whatever you said just now, that can also be one of the reason, one of the main reason. If you have high number of bad jobs, and if there is some kind of delay that is happening intermittently, very often, so sometimes it is taking high response time, low response time, and your CPU is drastically coming down to 60%. Then again, when the batch jobs are running, it is, you are saying some 90 to 96%, but your database is still responding. When your CPU utilization of the database is exceeding more than 85 to 90%, your database will stop responding. But there is a case, I'm continuously seeing 85 to 90% of the utilization in CPU, database CPU, and it is still serving the responses for all the user requests. So what could be the reason is my question. It can be because of the bad jobs. And any other questions, any other answers?
Like it could be because the results are being sent from DB cache, the state
Okay.
management. So meaning like that could be causing overhead also, but at the same time it may be able to serve the database queries sent by middleware application.
So for most of the another question here. So I'm running a 8 hours test. In the first 2 hours, from the last 75 minutes, I'm seeing this 90% utilization, 85 to 90%. Do you continue the test or do you stop the test? I still have
So
6 hours duration left.
so as per best practice, I think anything above 75 or 80% is any of our hardware systems used in our test environment, the results cannot be reliable as per the best practices. So ideally, if it is like more than 5-10 minutes, the CPU usage or resource usage is at above 85 or 80%, then it is better to stop and analyze why it is taking that much time at that particular load.
The first point is you will definitely stop the test. Okay, no doubt about that. And let me open here.
Okay, my answer will be if the application is responding, let's wait
Okay,
till the breakdown of the application. If the application breaks down, then better to stop it.
you can do that as well. Uh, you can wait, right? You can also wait for that to happen. You can wait for that to happen, and you can see at what point the system is breaking. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So the reason why we always try to stop the test is because it is always because of the licensing issues. So if you look at many of the applications now, people started running the tests on the cloud vendors, right? So if you look at many of the applications now, there is something called Storm Runner Cloud. People stopped using Performance Center. Now they are using all the load generators are being managed by Storm Runner, where you're directly going and trying to get the access for all the different load generators from the AWS, which are completely deployed and managed at all the times from the Storm Runner. So that is why the people are buying a different pay models like VU days, virtual user days, permanent and temporary licenses. People who are opting for these VUDs, they really don't. When they see major issues from application different applications, they don't really go ahead and continue the test. They simply stop the test just to save the license. If you're
This is
saving 50
if
users.
it is a deployed on a if this license is limitation, then in that case, if license is not a limitation, then we can just wait for the application to break down.
That depends on the requirement. Even if your customer is ready to buy another license, then you can go ahead and see if that is a break-even point testing. You have to definitely wait. That is no other go, right? If it is a break-even point testing, if you're trying to understand the sustainability of your application, you have to wait. Simple. So you can also, that is a very big thing that you have observed. You're observing 80 to 90% continuous utilization of your CPU and memory, which is happening for a very prolonged period of time from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. If it is the same utilization, you need to keep a track of it. You need to see for what reason it is still responding. That is also another issue, because when when the same thing is happening for hours, 3 to 4 hours, it means that the application is still trying to sustain. The application is not it is not unresponsive. It is still trying to respond. It is still trying to serve the needs of the user, but at some point the application will definitely break. But if it is taking some 11 seconds or 12 seconds of response time, it will be of no use. And if you have any of the payment gateways, or if it is doing any of the payment activity, it will directly uh, kill that particular instance. It will break that connection and it will result you in a timeout connection if you have a high queue length. And again, that will create a huge impact on the business return of investment. So for your question again, you can wait, we can wait or we can stop. It purely depends upon what flavor of performance testing that you're doing. Okay, and after identifying all the different issues or after seeing all the different abnormalities from the infrastructure, to fix the performance, what is that you do now? Let us forget about CPU utilization or memory utilization or stopped responding. You completed your test and you understood that you have many issues from the database side. Now, to fix the performance, what are all the different things that you would like to concentrate? So what you will understand? You will go back to the different teams, right? I'm seeing this issue. What happened? If you go back to the Oracle DBA and if you tell him that I'm seeing these issues, and what are all the questions that you ask to the Oracle DBA now with respect to Oracle? You don't ask anything to your DBA?
Yes, we can go to DBA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what do you ask DBA now?
No, we can explain the behavior like when we are running a load test, this is what happening. Like the CPU usage is going above 85% at a particular user load consistently. We can say that, and we can explain our load situation, what is the user load, and our load test configuration we can provide him.
Okay. And what do you ask?
So we can
I-
also
Yeah, go ahead.
ask if the indexes are missing for the queries running.
Okay.
And if any other tests are in progress in database, because of that also CPU can be high.
I'm sorry. So you will ask whether it is a shared database or a dedicated database is the first question, right? Am I right? We have multiple environments. You ask the database is the database is being shared with multiple environments, or the issues are happening only when I'm doing the performance testing on this particular database. Do you ask that question or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Right. And
Yes.
you also ask what are the changes in the application or the database that are happened. What is the way it is used? How the customers will use it is the another question, right? How frequently the batch jobs will run. So if the batch jobs are running, so how often they are running, at what rate, what certain rate they are pushing all the different batch jobs every 3 hours or every 6 hours. If have you ever observed any of the degradation or any of the high CPU resource utilizations when the batch jobs are running, right? For example, if you have a planned maintenance activity on the production database, all the batch jobs will wait. If the planned maintenance activity is happening for 2 or 3 days, the complete migration of data is happening. On Monday, if I'm stopping my database, all the batch jobs are stopping on my database for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Monday, the performance of the application will be very, very bad because I have to send all my batch jobs, the old batch jobs along with my new batch jobs. For example, the batch job is nothing but an NEFT transaction. You transfer the funds in the NEFT transaction and the amount will get credited in the next 3 to 4 hours. The reason is because you transfer now and after 3 years a batch job gets initiated and the amount from your money will be it will start initiation and it will debit from your account and it will credit in the the party which you have added. You will have thousands and lakhs of batch jobs. When these batch jobs are running, you will start seeing high CPU or high memory utilizations, or you will see very slow response, very high response times. Okay, so to fix any kind of performance issues on the database, you need to understand what are the changes that happened from the application side. If something has changed, what really changed? Okay, is it a shared database with all the other multiple environments, or most importantly, you need to understand the changes in the host configuration, how the JDBC connections or how different multiple application servers and the business logic is configured to the database. And you always need to check the data access path. Data access path is nothing but you will have hundreds and hundreds of applications in a project, okay, and you will have thousands of tables in a database which will hold so much of data, so much of information of all the different applications. If you are testing on a specific application, you need to identify the data access path of that application, which which table in the database the user is hitting. What is the data access path? Okay, is it the right traversal of the user to go there, to hit it, to fetch the data, to request the data, and to bring the response back? And is it happening in the timeline that we have defined, the timing target, is it happening in the 3 seconds of time or 4 seconds of time? That is what you need to make sure. So for that reason, you go back and you see all the host configuration files, whether they are properly configured or not, and then you check all of them and then you rerun your test. To fix your performance, these are all the main important points that you need to understand. For example, there are multiple bottlenecks that you see from different directions. So if I ask you, if you say me that, sir, I have, if I see a point in your resume as one of your roles and responsibilities saying that I am an expert, DB, Oracle DB tuning expert. If I see that point in your summary, my this question is for you. Okay, if any one of you already have this point in your resume saying that sound knowledge in database tuning, expert knowledge in database tuning, I ask you, what are all the different bottlenecks that are caused by environment? Tell me 2 bottlenecks that are caused by environment, only from the database side. Forget about web server, app server, and client side, or the different issues that you see. If I ask you, what are all the bottlenecks that are caused by database environment, especially with Oracle DB? No one? No one noticed any of the bottlenecks that comes from the environment side?
It can be on the network also.
Network? Okay. CPU bottlenecks are completely are caused by environment only, right? Memory bottlenecks, CPU bottlenecks, these are all environment related bottlenecks caused by database environment, caused by database. These are all environment related issues. So it can, and when I say environment, it can be the CPU bottlenecks, or it can be because of memory bottlenecks. Like if you take the Oracle database, right? If you give undersized memory structures, the memory will be occupied very soon and it will give you so many memory issues. And when I specifically talk about Oracle database, you have sys global area, which is called SGA, and program global area, which is called PGA, and buffer cache. I'll explain you each of this memory area when we go when we talk in detail. Okay, system global area, what is program global area, and what is buffer cache. These are all 3 different important memory structures in Oracle database. If you are giving any of the undersized memory structures to all of these 3, you will see memory bottlenecks. Got it?
Okay.
And I'll explain each of them in detail going forward. Don't worry about that. If someone is asking me a question, just go ahead. Okay. Is someone asking me a question? Did I interrupt? Okay. All right. So someone told me just now it can be because of network, disk IO, input output, reading and writing, disk related issues, all are because of only environment. Okay, memory issues and all. These are all nothing but the bottlenecks caused by environment. Okay, there is another thing called the bottlenecks which are caused by database. What are all the different bottlenecks that you see from that are caused by database?
Yeah, we discussed some time ago, like that could be the bad application design or the
Bad
what is
schema
written.
design, bad
Yeah,
application design,
and also the indexing not done properly is the most common cause. And
indexing not done
also,
properly.
and query is not written by following the best practices in terms of performance
Right. High
consideration.
load
Yeah,
SQL
explain plan.
statements.
Yeah, I
High load SQL statements.
Yeah,
Anything?
and sometimes, as we were saying, that the stored procedures they would be written in a very complex way that um, multiple times data will be read from the table, like that comes under the improper way of writing SQL query. I mean, not written in efficient way. Those things, and also some other thing like outside database. I mean, like from application server when it is when the call is coming through JDBC connection pool objects. If the connection pool size is not optimally decided and configured in app server, that also sometimes creates issue when we run a high volume load test. The number of connection pool objects, if they are very less, and we can see a lot of high response time, or we can say like the result set won't be coming back from database. That also possible causes.
Right. Excellent. Any other things? These are many points. The interviewer can stop you at any point of time, and he can ask you some relevant question on that. Let's say that if you are only preparing for an interview purpose, okay, and if I ask you what are all the different issues that are caused by caused by Oracle database, you simply say that I wait for an answer called high SQL parsing. Okay, there is a major issue from the database that will happen because of something called high SQL parsing. How many of you know that there are two different types of parsing? One is soft parsing and one is hard parsing in SQL parsing in Oracle. If someone says me that what are all the different bottlenecks caused by database, and for the sake of interview, if he's preparing and if he's giving me an answer high SQL parsing, then I can ask him some relevant questions on why, at what situations this SQL parsing can happen. What is the difference between soft parsing and hard parsing? What does a low soft parsing mean? What does a high soft parsing mean? How do you optimize these parsing techniques? So when this SQL parsing is happening excessively, what area of memory pool it is being used from the Oracle database? So we will talk all about that. This is just an example that I would like to tell you. When you prepare for any of the evaluation, it is not just that you read some point and you give the answer. You have multiple reasons or multiple issues that you see from the database side. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Even if you start learning the tuning a database, it will take some 2 to 3 years from today. If you're spending 15 minutes a day, it will take, even if you're a senior DBA, an expert DBA, you will not, whatever the suggestion that you give, whatever the instruction or whatever the possible causes that you addressed, saying that for this reason the performance is like this, and if you run the same test with the same settings, the immediate next day you will not see the same issue again. That is the uniqueness of the databases. You cannot reproduce the issue. You cannot directly jump onto a conclusion saying that high parsing has created this high CPU spinning. You can't tell that. There is no guarantee that the same thing will happen and again. And today you see some good response times, and tomorrow if you run the same test, If there are some changes that happened from the application side, or from the host configuration side, or from the Oracle execution planning side, so what can happen is, if you are running a test today, you are seeing high number of connections rate. The reason is because it is establishing new database connections repeatedly. You need to check the connection count, right? It doesn't mean that if you're seeing high number of connections, it doesn't mean that high number of users are accessing the application. The same user can repeatedly connect again and again, and it creates so much of duplication. If too many connections are created, all the ports are closed, and it cannot serve for the remaining users, and the response is not given. And in such cases, it is you may see a exception saying that server not found, right? That can be one possible case. And contention of data is always there. You will have too much of high levels of contention in database also, like in application server. If two threads are fighting for the same resource, you will see a deadlock, right? In database also, you will have something called object contention. You will have something called DB objects. We'll talk more about that. You will see high levels of contention for small amount of data. Okay, so to access very small amount of data, it will see a high level of contention, and this is called application level block contention. This happens on both the tiers, applications tier, and also on the database side. And from the database performance issues, you will see so many database configuration issues. Like if you give, many of the people don't try to allocate more amount of memory to the log files. That is obviously there, and it is a best practice. And if you have too much of communication that is being recorded from the client server, it obviously, to understand the error or to understand the issue what exactly happened, you definitely need a log file to see what really happened. If you are giving some low memory sizing on a log file, and if that log file is not able to record all the communication happen between the client and server, you may not identify the issue. Okay, so sometimes incorrect size of log files will create a problem, and the DBAs are not supposed to use too many checkpoints. If they are using too many checkpoints, when the execution is happening, it stops every often, which will give a very bad impact on the response time. Okay, so there are various tools to tune your Oracle database. You have an Oracle Enterprise Manager, and there is an inbuilt pack called Oracle Diagnostics Pack. One is AWR report, automatic workload repository. We take multiple AWR reports to see what is happening from a performance standpoint. If standpoint, this is one of the main important concept, because every performance guru will ask you only this thing: what is that you analyzed from AWR? What is redo size? What is redo buffer? What is caching? What are the different memory areas? These are all, they play only at this place. They cannot ask you what is high level passing until and unless he is completely working on Oracle database replication, performance testing, and engineering. If he is very much strong in Oracle database, he will not ask you any questions from other areas. So he can ask you, how do you tune SQL queries, long running queries? How do you optimize a query? Okay, what are the different tools that you use? How do you add tracing for this one? What are all the, to baseline a database? What are the metrics that you collect? Like you collect application statistics, database statistics, OS statistics, disk IO statistics, network statistics, right? So there is one document which is a very good document, this Oracle AWR. So let me explain you first. Then see, if you look at different parts, right? SQL section, you have all this. You have all these monitors. If you go to SQL section, you are seeing elapsed time, execution, shareable memory, elapsed time. So if you spend some time, it is at a very high level. Uh, this is statistics that you see. Okay, these are all the event. If you look at the weights here, if you look at the average time, DB time, weight class, see if you I have given everything here, hard pairs, bind variables. So don't talk about all the bind variables and all. If someone is asking you what is a bind variable, you'll not be able to answer that. So if you are very much clear about what you're saying, then you can drive your interview in the way you want. But unnecessarily highlighting one point and uh, misleading your interview into a different area, it will just waste your opportunity. So don't do that. So whatever the content that you see here, SQL section, these are all the different things, parts calls, shared memory. I'll explain you all of them in detail. Don't worry about that. So when I talk about tools, AWR is the one of the important thing, and there is another report called ADDM, Automatic Database Diagnostic Monitor, and along with these two diagnostics pack, you have Oracle Database Tuning Pack. This is where you have SQL Tuning Advisor and SQL Access Advisor and SQL Performance Advisor. Okay, so all these things will be discussed. I'll show you all of them in Oracle database on how to analyze a sample query and how to check all of them. So this is at a very high level, Oracle database issues discussion. So I don't want to. I can still take the class, but today is a festival, right? I don't want to spend too much of time. So this is all about for today. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll talk about client-side performance testing. Uh, I'll show you how to do this client-side performance testing with one of the tool and what are the recommendations that you can give. And we will spend much time on Oracle database tuning. Okay. See, it is very. Let me